Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, I'm doing a speed rundown of the 11th Doctor to finish what was my 12 Doctors of Christmas special. Be sure to watch the videos I've already done of Doctors 1 through 10, and check back later for my rundown of 12 coming soon to finish out this series. Just a reminder, there will be spoilers in this video. I will try to summarize quickly, but key plot points will be revealed. With that said, let's pick up where we last left off. After holding in his regeneration energy, the 10th Doctor regenerates into the 11th, and the force of the change sends the TARDIS crashing towards Earth. The Doctor meets a young girl named Amelia Pond, who has been wishing for someone to help her with a large crack that has formed in her bedroom wall. The Doctor tells her the crack isn't in her wall, but is actually in the very fabric of space-time. And on the other side of the crack, they can hear an Atraxi prison, declaring that Prisoner Zero has escaped. The Doctor uses his sonic to close the crack, and returns to the TARDIS, telling Amelia that he will return for her in 5 minutes after he recalibrates his TARDIS. But even though she waits for him with her suitcase all night, he doesn't come back. 12 years later, the Doctor finally returns after what he believes was only 5 minutes. Amelia, who now goes by Amy, knocks the Doctor out, believing that he is an intruder. And when he wakes, the Doctor alerts Amy to the danger of Prisoner Zero, who has been living in her home ever since the Doctor left, in a room hidden behind a perception filter. Prisoner Zero attacks them and they escape, but soon the Atraxi arrive and demand that Prisoner Zero be returned to them or they will destroy the Earth. The two run into Rory Williams, a nurse who is Amy's boyfriend, and he tells them that Prisoner Zero is using the identities of coma patients to change his form. Using this information, the Doctor alerts the Atraxi to Prisoner Zero's possible appearances, and the Atraxi capture him and leave. But the Doctor quickly calls them back to yell at them for threatening the Earth, declaring himself Earth's protector. Afterwards, the Doctor leaves again in the TARDIS, but he returns 2 years later and once again asks Amy to accompany him. She agrees, but insists that she be returned home before morning. What she doesn't tell the Doctor is that tomorrow is her wedding day. The Doctor and Amy first travel to the 19th century, where most of the United Kingdom now lives on a massive spaceship called Starship UK after the Earth was consumed by solar flares. Hearing no engines on board, the Doctor goes to the control room and finds it inoperable, but he meets the Queen, Liz 10, who tells him that she is investigating the ship as well. Meanwhile, Amy is taken to a voting booth and shown a video about the truth of Starship UK. She is then asked if she wants to protest the truth or accept it, and she chooses to accept before her memory of the video is erased. The Doctor, unable to see the video, selects protest, and the two are sent to the bottom of the ship where a giant creature is consuming people. They manage to escape the creature and re-enter the ship, but are taken to the Tower of London, where they learn that the ship is using a captured star whale controlled by painful electrical impulses to travel through space. Liz 10 realizes that she ordered this and has chosen to wipe her memory every time she rediscovers the horrible truth. The Doctor is furious at being asked to choose between saving humanity or the star whale. He ultimately decides to make the star whale brain dead so it will no longer feel pain. But before he can, Amy releases it from its prison, and surprisingly, the star whale continues to pilot the ship of its own free will, only faster. Amy and the Doctor return to the TARDIS and are soon contacted by Winston Churchill, who requests the Doctor's assistance. The pair arrive in Churchill's war room 1 month after he called them, and right in the middle of the London Blitz of World War II. Churchill shows the Doctor robotic devices that his scientific advisor, Edwin Bracewell, has created, which he calls Ironsides. But the Doctor instantly recognizes them as Daleks, and tries to warn them of the danger. The Daleks pretend to be Bracewell's inventions, and repeat the phrase, "I am your soldier," referencing the famous second Doctor story, The Power of the Daleks, when the Daleks were pretending to be machines, and would repeat the phrase, "I am your servant." However, once the Doctor reveals his identity to the Daleks and calls them by their name, they turn hostile, and reveal that Bracewell is an android of their creation, despite the fact that he thinks he is a real person. The Daleks reveal a machine that will revive their species, and they use it to create 5 new Daleks, larger and more colorful than ever. After the humans attack the Dalek ship, the Daleks activate a bomb in the chest of Bracewell, and the Doctor is forced to allow the Daleks to escape so he can defuse it. With Amy's help, they are able to convince Bracewell that he is more human than machine, and he is able to deactivate his bomb. As the Doctor and Amy leave, it is revealed that an identical crack to the one in Amy's childhood bedroom has appeared here as well. Later, while looking around a museum, the Doctor finds a plea for help from River Song, and they use the TARDIS to travel 12,000 years into the past to assist her from escaping a crashing ship called the Byzantium. Once it crashes, River tells the Doctor that a weeping angel is in its cargo hold, and she has brought along a group of soldiers to help her capture it. Studying a book about the angels, the Doctor and River learn that the image of an angel can become an angel, and Amy sees this firsthand as she is attacked by an angel on a television screen. They manage to save Amy, but she feels something in her eye. As they make their way to the crashed Byzantium through a series of catacombs, they take notice of the statues that surround them, and they soon realize that they are all weakened weeping angels. After the angels trap them, the Doctor shoots the gravity globe that they have been using, and they all jump up to escape the angels. They enter the crashed Byzantium, and the angels pursue them as they make their way to the ship's oxygen factory, a giant indoor forest. The Doctor discovers a crack here, just like in Amy's bedroom, and realizes it is leaking time energy that draws the angels towards it. They realize that Amy has an image of an angel in her eye, and the Doctor tells her to close her eyes to stop it from taking her over. Leaving the soldiers with Amy to guard her, the Doctor and River make their way to another control room. But as the soldiers guarding Amy become curious about the crack, they go to inspect it one by one, and are each erased from time, leaving Amy all alone. She tries to make her way to the control room with her eyes closed, but as the angels close in on her, River teleports her to the control room. The Doctor is able to trick the angels, and they all fall into the crack in time, closing it, and Amy is cured when the angel affecting her is erased. Amy and the Doctor return to her home on the night they left, and she finally tells the Doctor that she is getting married, before kissing him. The Doctor, panicking after Amy hits on him, interrupts Rory's bachelor party, and takes both of them on a romantic trip to Venice in the year 1580. They discover the city's patron, Signora Rosanna Calvieri, is lying to her people about the plague as an excuse to seal off the city. They become interested in Signora Calvieri's school for girls, and Amy enrolls in it, discovering that the girls are being turned into vampires. But before Amy can be converted herself, she escapes with the help of another girl. The Doctor questions Signora Calvieri and learns that she is from the planet Saturnine, part of a race of aquatic beings with vampire-like tendencies, who plan to sink the city of Venice and convert all the humans to control their race. She activates a device to create earthquakes that will sink Venice, but the Doctor is able to stop it just in time, and Signora Calvieri throws herself into the canal to be eaten by her young. Afterwards, Amy and the Doctor invite Rory along with them full-time. Meeting a figure that calls himself the Dream Lord, the TARDIS team are repeatedly thrust between two realities, the first being inside a powerless TARDIS as they are being slowly pulled into a freezing cold star, and the second being in the town of Ledworth as they are chased by an alien race disguised as elderly people and Amy is pregnant, with the Ponds having long since stopped traveling with the Doctor. The crew must decide which of the scenarios is real and which is a dream, and kill themselves inside of the dream to return to reality. But if they choose wrong, they will be killed in both. As Amy is taunted by the Dream Lord over having to choose between Rory and the Doctor, she returns to the Ledworth reality and sees Rory killed by the aliens. Amy decides that she's willing to risk her life if it means seeing Rory alive again, and concludes that the Ledworth reality is the false one. The three wake up in the TARDIS and are congratulated by the Dream Lord, but the Doctor directs the TARDIS to self-destruct, killing them all. They wake up again in the TARDIS, but are no longer in danger, and the Doctor tells them that both realities were false, since the Dream Lord had no power over the real world. He also reveals that the Dream Lord was a manifestation of his own darker side, influenced by some stray psychic pollen that got into the TARDIS. Rory realizes that Amy died for him, and the two confess their continuing love for each other. Despite trying to get to Rio, the three next end up in Wales in the year 2020, and they encounter a mining operation who are studying minerals deep in the earth that have gone unseen for 20 million years. Suddenly, the ground opens underneath them and Amy falls into the earth, and soon, three life forms are detected making their way up the mineshaft. They are able to capture one of the creatures, but are unable to stop the others from taking a small boy named Elliot back into the earth with them. The Doctor recognizes the creatures as Silurians and interrogates their captive, named Alea, who says that her people were awakened by the drill and will reclaim the Earth. Knowing any harm to Alea would be seen as an act of war, the Doctor and the mining leader, Nazreen, take the TARDIS down the mineshaft. They arrive in the Silurian base, but are quickly captured, as is Amy when she tries to help them. But when the leader of the Silurians is called, he stops the hostilities. The Doctor arranges a conference between the two races and contacts Rory above ground to bring Alea to them. But unknown to the Doctor, Alea is already dead, having been killed by Elliot's mother. When they arrive with Alea's body, the Silurians become enraged and attack. The Doctor disables their weapons and they make their escape to the TARDIS, with Nazarene deciding to stay behind to help improve future relations between the species. As they prepare to leave, the Doctor sees another crack in space-time and pulls an object out of it. But he is soon shot at by a Silurian, and Rory saves him by stepping in front of the blast. As he dies, the crack begins to absorb his body, and he is erased from time. The Doctor tries to help Amy hold on to his memory, but she soon forgets that he ever existed. As the Doctor inspects what he pulled from the crack, he realizes it's a burnt piece of the TARDIS. The Doctor takes Amy to the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, where they admire the work of Vincent van Gogh. Noticing what appears to be an alien figure in one of the paintings, they travel back to 1890 and meet Vincent, a lonely man who thinks himself a failure. Vincent opens up to Amy, and he senses in her a loss that she's not aware of. And when Amy is attacked by a monster that only Vincent can see, they have him paint them a picture, and the Doctor identifies it as a Corpheus. They discover the creature again as Vincent begins to paint the painting from the future, and the Doctor realizes that the creature is blind and most likely afraid. Unfortunately, Vincent accidentally kills the creature with his easel as it lunges at him. As they prepare to leave, the Doctor decides to show Vincent something, and they take him to the future to show him the Musée d'Orsay, where he finally realizes his worth as an artist, and he is incredibly moved. After taking him back to the past, they return to the museum again, and Amy expects to see hundreds more paintings, but they learn he committed suicide at the same time he always did. The Doctor explains that life is a mixture of bad and good, and while their brief encounter with Vincent couldn't undo all the bad, they certainly added some good to his life. Later, after the Doctor steps out of the TARDIS in present-day England, a mysterious force causes the TARDIS to dematerialize with Amy on board. The Doctor manages to contact Amy, trapped in the time vortex, and he uses her to help him find the source of the mysterious force, which is located on the second floor of a house. The Doctor decides to rent a room from the downstairs tenant, Craig, so he can investigate without being suspicious. But after annoying Craig by repeatedly infringing on his personal life, the two get into a fight, while Craig's love interest, Sophie, is lured up to the second floor. They discover that she is there and run upstairs to learn that the house has never even had a second floor, as it is actually an alien spaceship hidden behind a perception filter. The ship has been looking for a suitable replacement pilot, but it kills anyone who is not a perfect fit. The Doctor tells Craig to take the controls, and he destroys the ship with his intense desire to not leave Sophie. As the Doctor leaves, Craig gives him a spare key to the house in case he ever needs it. Following a message from River Song, the Doctor and Amy arrive in Roman Britain in the year 102 AD and find her impersonating Cleopatra. She shows the Doctor a painting by Vincent van Gogh called the Pandorica Opens that shows the TARDIS exploding, and the Doctor realizes that the fabled Pandorica of Time Lord lore must be hidden close by, at the famous Stonehenge. Upon inspection, they discover a passage underneath Stonehenge and find the Pandorica, a giant metal box covered in locks. The Roman legion that have been assigned to help the Doctor are led by a centurion that is actually, and bizarrely, Rory. The Doctor is completely confused by this, knowing that Rory not only died, but was erased from time, and when Amy sees him, she cannot remember him. The Pandorica is transmitting a signal that River warns is drawing everything that has ever hated the Doctor to Earth, and soon the sky is buzzing with enemy spaceships. As the Doctor delivers a threatening speech to buy some time, River attempts to pilot the TARDIS to Stonehenge, but an outside force takes control and she ends up in Amy's childhood bedroom, where she discovers a book about Pandora's box and another about Roman Britain. River warns the Doctor that the Pandorica must be a trap created from Amy's memories. And the Doctor, realizing that River must currently be at the key moment that creates the cracks in time, tells her to run. However, before she can escape, the TARDIS console begins to go critical. Back at Stonehenge, the Doctor learns that the Romans, including Rory, are Autons, and he is captured by all of his surrounding enemies and thrown into the Pandorica, which was created to be his prison. The Doctor's enemies know that the TARDIS is responsible for the cracks in time, and they believe that imprisoning him will save the universe. Above ground, the Auton Rory fights to hold on to his humanity, but tragically, Just as Amy finally recognizes him, he shoots her with his auton weapon, and she dies. As Rory mourns Amy, the Doctor appears using a vortex manipulator and gives Rory his sonic screwdriver, with instructions to use it to rescue him from the Pandorica. Once the Doctor leaves again, Rory does as he's told and releases the Doctor, putting Amy in his place inside the Pandorica so that her health can be restored. With the universe now destroyed except for the Earth, the Doctor travels ahead 2,000 years with the vortex manipulator, but the auton Rory decides to stay behind to protect the Pandorica and Amy. In 1996, a 7-year-old Amelia Pond sees the Pandorica in a museum, and she touches it to release Amy. The Doctor arrives, and Rory shows up as well as the museum's security guard, having stood by the Pandorica faithfully for all those years. After the Doctor uses the vortex manipulator to travel to the past and give Rory his sonic, he saves River from the exploding TARDIS and sends the Pandorica towards it to create a second Big Bang and restart the universe. The Doctor knows he must stay outside this new universe to fix the cracks in time, and so he says his goodbyes to his sleeping Amy. The next day, Amy awakes in her home to discover that she has parents for the first time in her life, and it's her wedding day. At the reception, Amy remembers the Doctor, and soon Rory does too, and their memory of him is what brings him back into existence. The TARDIS appears on the dance floor, and the Doctor appears, ready to celebrate the wedding. As the celebration winds down, the Doctor gets a call on his TARDIS phone, and the Doctor and the Ponds re-enter the TARDIS and prepare for even more adventures. As Amy and Rory are on a space liner for their honeymoon, they begin to crash as they pass through strange clouds above a planet. They summon the Doctor and he investigates, finding the problem to be a spire owned by a rich old man named Kazran. But despite the Doctor's pleas, he will not allow the ship to land safely. The Doctor decides to visit Kazran as a child to try and soften his look on life by making his childhood better, visiting him every Christmas for an adventure. However, although this does eventually work, Kazran has been changed so much that his isomorphic controls no longer recognize him as the same person, and they are forced to depend on the voice of a beautiful girl to calm the skies and allow the ship to land. After a 2-month break from the Doctor, Amy and Rory receive invitations leading them both to Utah, and they arrive to meet River Song, who was also invited. They meet the Doctor, who has aged nearly 200 years since they last saw him, and enjoy a picnic together. But soon, an astronaut walks out of the nearby Lake Silencio and shoots the Doctor, killing him. A man named Canton arrives with another invitation, and he helps them burn the Doctor's body. But when the three of them go to a diner to collect their thoughts, they see the Doctor alive and well, and also carrying an invitation. However, he is much younger than the version that they just saw die. They travel to 1969 with the confused Doctor and wind up in the White House, meeting a younger Canton who is talking with President Nixon about strange phone calls the president has been receiving, from a child asking for help, and the Doctor works to locate the child. Meanwhile, Amy runs into an alien in the bathroom of the White House, but as soon as she looks away from it, she forgets that it ever happened. The Doctor locates the child and takes the TARDIS there with Canton, and there they find a spacesuit and alien technology. As they look around, Amy tells the Doctor that she is pregnant. They hear Canton scream and investigate to find the astronaut, and Amy grabs Canton's gun to shoot at it, realizing too late that it's actually a little girl. Suddenly, the aliens that Amy saw in the White House bathroom attack, and they all run away, with Canton nearly being grabbed. Fast forwarding 3 months, Rory, Amy, and River are all on the run from Canton, and are one by one cornered by him, with the Ponds appearing to be shot dead, and River escaping by jumping off a building. The Ponds' bodies are brought to the Doctor's impenetrable cell, as he has already been captured. However, once the Doctor and Canton are alone in the cell with the bodies of the Ponds, they open their body bags, and the Doctor removes his chains, revealing that this was the plan all along. They use the TARDIS, which was hidden, to rescue River, and then they go about figuring out how to take down these aliens, who are known as the Silents, and are not only all over the planet, but have the ability to plant ideas and suggestions into people's minds. The Doctor plants listening devices into their hands so they can leave themselves messages, and they head for Kennedy Space Center. On the way, Amy tells the Doctor that she was mistaken and is not actually pregnant. But as she and Canton visit a creepy nearby orphanage where the girl in the spacesuit may have come from, they find a picture of Amy with a baby. Suddenly, the little girl and the Silents appear and capture Amy, and the Doctor and company arrive too late, finding only her audio device. River sees the now empty spacesuit and realizes the little girl must have had immense strength to pry herself out of it, also deducing that the suit automatically contacted the president as the highest authority when the girl got scared. The Doctor believes the Silents have been controlling humanity, forcing them into a space race to develop a spacesuit for some reason. Meanwhile, Canton has captured one of the Silents and interrogates it, recording it as it mocks him, saying humanity should kill the Silents on sight. The Doctor tracks Amy using her communication device and lands the TARDIS in the Silents headquarters. He then splices the recording Canton made of the Silents into the moon landing, so all of humanity will see the message and subconsciously kill the Silents whenever they see them without even realizing it. River kills all of the Silents in the control room, and they make their escape. But when the Doctor asks River to travel with him, she refuses, opting instead to kiss him, which for him is the very first time. A fact that surprises River as she fears she's getting closer to the day when they will never meet again. Later, the TARDIS picks up a distress signal and winds up on a 17th century pirate ship stranded in the Atlantic, whose crew is being plagued by a siren who sings the sailors to their doom after they suffer any injury. Assuming the siren is using water as a portal, the Doctor directs everyone to the ship's ammunition room, which should be the driest spot. And here they discover the captain's son, who is stowed away. When the Doctor realizes it's not water, but the reflections that the siren is using, they remove all reflective surfaces from the ship, including its stolen treasure. But when the captain's son drops a crown, the siren appears and takes him. The Doctor believes that the people she takes don't actually die, and he persuades everyone to prick their fingers. Sure enough, they are teleported to an alien spacecraft and realize the siren is a ship's virtual doctor. The captain decides to stay on the spaceship with his son and crew, and the Doctor and the Ponds leave them. The TARDIS next receives a communication cube from a fellow Time Lord in distress, and the Doctor traces it to a rift leading outside of the universe. They land in a junkyard on an asteroid, but then the TARDIS completely shuts down. They explore the asteroid and meet the inhabitants: Uncle, Auntie, a green-eyed Ood named Nephew, and an excited girl named Idris, who seems obsessed with the Doctor and turns out to be the TARDIS's soul itself, extracted and placed into this woman's body. They all serve the asteroid itself, who is sentient and calls himself House, and it welcomes the Doctor to itself. The Doctor sends Amy and Rory back to the TARDIS and goes looking for the Time Lord who sent him the cube, eventually finding a cabinet full of Time Lord communication cubes from presumably dead Time Lords. The Doctor realizes that the people here are made up of borrowed body parts that House has been salvaging from Time Lords that he lures here. However, upon learning that the Doctor is the last of his kind, House inhabits the TARDIS and uses it to escape the rift with Amy and Rory inside, trapping the Doctor on the asteroid. The Doctor and Idris work together to make a new TARDIS from the scraps of old ones, and they pursue House. Idris telepathically reaches Rory and directs him and Amy to a secondary control room. They lower the TARDIS shields and the Doctor materializes in their control room, and when Idris releases the TARDIS matrix back into itself, House is destroyed. The TARDIS gets caught in a solar storm and crash lands near a factory that exports a corrosive acid. The workers here must use a self-replicating liquid called the flesh to create living doppelgangers of themselves, which they call gangers, in order to safely work with acid. If one of them is killed, they can simply create a new ganger body. The Doctor warns the crew of a second solar storm, but they don't listen, and when it hits, everyone is knocked unconscious. When they wake up, the gangers are gone and can move of their own accord, having the same memories as their real-life counterparts and believing themselves to be real people. The humans and the gangers begin to fight each other, and when one of the gangers is killed, the Doctor and Amy direct everyone to head to the chapel, where they discover a ganger version of the Doctor. The ganger Doctor is eager to help them, but Amy doesn't trust him, despite the Doctor vouching for him. They decide to separate the two Doctors, and the ganger Doctor goes looking for Rory, who got separated while looking for a member of the crew, and has been tricked by her ganger into disabling the cooling system of the acid, making it dangerously unstable. The ganger Doctor meets with the other gangers and convinces all but one of them to help the humans escape the factory. The remaining ganger transforms into a monster, and both human and gangers sacrifice themselves as the group makes their way to the TARDIS, with the last person being the ganger Doctor, who triggers his sonic at just the right moment, causing himself and the monster to dissolve. The Doctor stabilizes the remaining gangers so they can remain solid permanently, and drops them off before confronting Amy, telling her that she too is a ganger. Confused, Amy doesn't know what he's talking about, but the Doctor promises her that they will find her before he uses his sonic to turn her back into the flesh. The real Amy wakes up in a white tube, finding herself fully pregnant and about to give birth. The Doctor and Rory track Amy to an asteroid base called Demon's Run, and the Doctor gathers several of his allies to attack, introducing us to Commander Strax, a Centauran, Dorium Maldivar, a black market dealer, Madame Vastra, a Silurian, and her human wife, Jenny Flint. Amy has been captured by a Madame Kavarian, who has taken her newborn infant, Melody. Meanwhile, Amy has befriended a human soldier who met the Doctor as a child, and she gives her a token with Melody's name on it, written in the language of the Gamma Force. The Doctor and his friends take over the base and find Amy and her baby, but as the Doctor celebrates, the Headless Monks attack, killing many on their side, and Madame Kavarian contacts the Doctor to gloat, saying that she will use Amy's daughter Melody against him, and she reveals that the baby that they have in their possession is just another ganger, as she disintegrates in Amy's arms. River finally arrives, and the Doctor is furious at her for not helping them, but when she shows him the token Amy received, he forgives her, realizing that in the language of the Gamma Force, the name Melody Pond becomes River's song. The Doctor leaves in the TARDIS, promising Amy that they will find her daughter, and he leaves River to explain everything to her very confused parents. And in the interest of saving time, that's where we're going to end today, but be sure to check back in the next few days for part 2 of the 11th Doctor, as well as the 12th Doctor to finish off the series. As always, thank you for being my companion on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.